Thank you very much for joining me today. It is Friday. I'm mixing my music. Um, if the music is too loud for you all, be sure to let me know in the comment so I can make the adjustments. But I wanted to do a quick live. In fact, I think I'm going to just shut off the music. I'm wearing the wrong headphones to actually mix live. So then there's that. Here we go. So, hey, Scotty, thanks for stopping by. Kevin, always good to see you. So I'm doing this live for a number of reasons. I'm gonna do a little bit of housekeeping before I get started, sort of sharing my thoughts. But I sent Scott a text and I said, dude, are you going to start streaming again on Fridays at 4 p.m. Central, like we like? Maybe I didn't say 4 p.m. Central, but I'm hoping that I implied it. And he basically said he is going to start streaming again soon, which is good. That's something we want to see because I feel like Scott's my friend and I miss him. I miss seeing him. I did get a chance to see him today, ever so briefly, in the chat on the Uncensored live broadcast, which is every single Friday at 11 a.m. So that was actually really cool to see. I know that he's got a lot of things happening because, Scott moved to Alaska, of all places. So that's pretty cool. The second housekeeping thing I want to go over is that my channel is evolving, as you all know. And with that, understand that every single thing that I talk about, every single thing that I cover, every single thing that I say, it's talking head commentary based on opinion. And it doesn't mean anything more than this is my perspective on what I see. So now that I got that out of the way, and hopefully that satisfies people in understanding where I'm coming from, what it is that I have to say, why would I say something. But this week was actually, I don't know, it was really good for me in a lot of ways, in the sense that I got a chance to see other people that work in the space like I do sort of open up their thoughts, their emotions, their perspective on this idea that ARRI might be up for sale, and then what could that actually mean for the rest of us. And that, of course, evolved into a much bigger conversation, which really means that if you want to understand how I'm rounding out my thoughts and my opinion, you need to go and watch James Jackson Films. That's his channel. So James did a live yesterday at 6 p.m. Eastern, which I believe he re-uploaded to his channel. So you should be able to find him, James Jackson Films, on YouTube, and watch that live. And then the second live, of course, is Uncensored, which happened today at 11. So you can find it on the Uncensored Brandon Washington channel. And Brandon and Jarrell did an excellent job of covering the topic from yet another perspective. And this is what I'm sort of rounding out my thoughts, which I had a lot to say. And if the live comment replay is active, you all will be able to see what it is that I had to say. But what I want to sort of, the perspective I want to take on this idea that ARRI is up for sale, what that actually means to all of us, and so on, is that It is true that if you have deep enough pockets, essentially you can buy your way into an industry. Okay. I'm not going to dispute that. I think that there's a lot of truth to that, right? Anyone can buy them their way into what they want to do if you have enough money, if you have enough staff, willingness to invest in marketing, advertising, exposure, and so on. If you have enough of it, you're able to penetrate any market regardless of the saturation level, given that you can outspend everyone else. So, what that really means is that it doesn't matter who you are as a brand. If your pockets are deep enough, you could instantly gain access to markets, people, revenue, and so on, even if you did not put in the work to get there. And I know that this is going to be slightly controversial because the brand that I'm going to use actually did put in a lot of time and effort and roots into the motion picture industry because they were originally a film company. And I'm talking about Kodak. So let's say Kodak decided they wanted to buy ARRI. All of a sudden, they go from just having film stock to having hardware that is up and running and live in a lot of studios and a lot of live production situations like sports. And we're talking about sports like NASCAR, like Formula One, like NHRA racing, like the Kentucky Derby. You get what I'm saying? So, like a lot of different sports, golf, um, that a lot of people, not just in one country, follow, but across a lot of countries in the globe are following. So now let's bring it back to something that's maybe more realistic. In the lives with my friends, ADM Colorist, good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Appreciate you. You know, it's easy enough to say, hey, Canon, potentially they have that option, right? Sony, if they want to, I mean, shit, Sony is deep. Sony has not just the consumer market, they have the prosumer market, and then they have the cinematography market with the variety of lines that they offer. But then more importantly, they have music, right? Sony Music, and they have motion pictures. So if they wanted to, they could absolutely take over ARRI and then instantly gain additional market share simply because of who Sony is. Would they? Probably not, because um, how do I say this without sounding like a low life here? I'm just gonna say that the Japanese pride is not going to allow them to think that in any way, shape, or form, they would need German engineering. And I'm going to leave it there because this is not a political commentary show. So I don't think Sony or Canon are anywhere near in the realm of possibilities of even considering ARRI. And I also think that when Canon decided to make a run at ARRI, they decided they were not going to go head to head with them, but rather complement them. This is several years back when Canon Burbank decided to move their headquarters closer to the studios. This is the same time when Canon launched the C700. And really, what they were going after all this time was essentially saying, we want to be the B or C cam in these major productions that are dominated by ARRI. And to show you that we want to play in that space, we are going to make sure that our neutral, is it the matrix? Color matrix. Yeah, so neutral color matrix or production camera color matrix in the camera is made to remove the Canon bias towards magenta and create a more neutral image so that as you're going through in post-production, and I'm going to forget the name. Oh God, what was that called? It's essentially a color pipeline that all motion pictures are sort of agreeing to adhere to so that it would more closely line up to it. So the approach that Canon took was, let's sort out how to get as close as we can to a neutral image that could be used as a complement to ARRI, rather than trying to license ARRI or ARRI log or ARRI log C or ARRI log C3 or anything. They just said, hey, we're going to do what we can on our end with our hardware, with our sensors, with our color imaging pipeline, ACES. That's what I was blanking on. And we're going to make sure that we give you an ACES color workflow so that you're then able to, yes, DM Colors, thank you. You're then able to use our hardware alongside yours. And I think that the genius part there on the Canon side really was that Canon is, I mean, you all know I like Canon. I'm on a Canon right now. You all are seeing the R50V. This is the image. And the genius part is that Canon has always been able to sort out how to get the most out of low light situations in a way that doesn't destroy color, retains detail and contrast, and doesn't just go sideways on the saturation without making everything super, super noisy. And yes, in this shot, I'm on a Super 35 camera. There's noise behind me. Maybe YouTube is managing that. Maybe they're not. I can see it in my monitor. It is what it is. If I turn up the noise goes away. I don't like that look. I like the contrasty look. I like the texture look. So this is why, we are here. That's more like me. Um, but what it did is it gave ARRI the ability to essentially be the daytime camera. And then for anything that was less than full sun, full lighting package, as in vehicle interiors, where you cannot turn it into a comedy type scene where everything is lit up. It gave Canon an in to that industry. And it seems to me like Canon was really happy with it. And Canon is still very happy with it. So going back to this idea of who has put in the work to actually say that, without sounding like a total douche, they deserve the ability to take the baton from ARRI and continue to run with it. It sucks to say, but let's think about it. Panasonic, as in Lumix, they gave up on cinema. They gave up on high-end motion picture specific type of cameras, and they decided to go after the consumer market, which we are all a part of, with the mirrorless line. Sony and Canon, they're Japanese companies that are not going to acquire a German-based company to expand their own technologies. So we got 3 out of the way. Fujifilm, where have they been? In this industry that, for some of us, we've been in for 18, 20, 25 years. They haven't been. Other than delivering film, which is arguably, and maybe from a very biased perspective for me, some of the best film that we've ever had access to. In case you didn't understand that, I love Fujifilm. Okay? So Fuji has not been there for us. They don't create glass, lighting, or motion acquisition hardware to allow us to make a living. So I would say if they have the deep enough pockets, they would be buying into an industry that they don't understand because they haven't been a part of. So Lumix, Fuji is out, Canon's out, Sony is out. Who does that leave us with? Nikon. And I'm saying Nikon because I was told that's how you say Nikon instead of Nikon. My whole life I called it Nikon. It is what it is. So we got Nikon, Big Blue, you're right. We got Hasselblad, which is really DJI, right? Because DJI owns them. We have Black Magic. Oh, God. And although I know that red is a part of Nikon, red is still red to me. And I feel like that's really where we end up because Zcam is never going to buy ARRI, right? Like, let's just be honest. And Sigma, which makes a full frame tiny camera that can capture in cinema DNG RAW, is likely not going to buy ARRI. So we don't have a lot left. But out of everything that I just said, the only company that has been grinding, and when I mean grinding, you all, like, I know you guys, if you all follow Red at all, you know who Jared is. And you also know how accessible Jared made himself to be. And that man would fly from Japan to LA to New York and everywhere else in the world nonstop to promote, encourage, educate, share, and ask people what they thought about and how they felt about Red, either before they used it, when they were using it, or after they used it. No one ever that I've seen at any brand, at any capacity beyond this industry has ever put in that level of work. And I'm saying all this again as commentary, given our our housekeeping note at the beginning of the live stream. The only company that has ever put that much skin on the line, their neck on the line, their guts and everything in front of so many creatives and so many people in studios and so on, and then made it attainable to all of us because they were shooting the 500 million, giant blockbuster movies and then giving us cameras like the Komodo and the Raven way back in the day to make sure that essentially no one was left behind. So if I have to pick one brand to pick up the baton, take the heritage that ARRI has been a part of in this industry for so many of us, and so many countless companies, individuals, studios, and so on, over their tenure, right? 100 years. It would be awesome if it could be a brand that was disruptive. And those are really only two at this point, Black Magic and Red, that cared about people like you and I. Again, we're right down to the same two, Black Magic and Red, that put everything they had into their company to give us the tools that gave us the competitive edge in our markets, that give us the ability to do things that were outside of traditional norms. And by that I mean When I started shooting red, when I switched and started buying red cameras, I never had to rent a high speed camera again. In the beginning, because the deliverables were in 2K, I was good. And later, because of Raptor X. Because I don't shoot things that are 1200 frames per second. That's not the work that I do. And when I think about everything that both Blackmagic and Red have contributed to this industry, it's always been about making this life that we all get to live more attainable, more accessible, more affordable, and easier to work with without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if ARRI is up for sale, and if somebody is going to buy ARRI, I personally would love it if it was Red or Blackmagic. And my reservation with Blackmagic is that if Blackmagic bought ARRI, there's no such thing as a free Resolve license after that. And there is no such thing as a 12K camera that is under $10,000. And every accessory instantly costs more. Because there is no way that for whatever money ARRI would need to be able to sell, it would translate to that $97,000 ARRI package that we've all looked at least once is going to become a $15,000 package. It wouldn't make sense. Blackmagic would have to make their money back. And with Red, I think we've all already seen that, right? Back in the day, a Monstro package with the media and all the modules and things that you would need could go up to $80,000, $90,000. And now we got Raptor X that you could pick up for $30,000. That's attainable. That makes more sense to a lot more of us. And don't get me wrong, if they could find a way to drop that number to 15, I'm going to be happy. Hell, if they could drop it down even more, I'm not going to complain, even though I paid full price. Because I think that that is what today's market is actually calling for. Because you see, every delivery platform, at least from my perspective, every delivery platform is finding the most efficient way to get the least amount of quality loss at the least amount of quality delivered to the end result screen, whatever that screen is. And they are relying on apps that are built into the hardware that we are all consuming content on to restore some of that quality as it's streamed. It's a different world. 2 years ago, it was a very different world. So that's what I wanted to share with you all. I'm going to go through the comments, but I have a kitty that locked herself up into my office, so I'm going to let her out. She's meowing. I don't know if you all heard her or not, but it was kind of funny. Let's buy ARRI. Um, you know, I don't think it's a bad idea for ARRI to become a publicly traded company. I think that the ownership group or family or whoever owns ARRI could actually do really well if they became public. And I think that the need for what ARRI offers in this industry is not going to go away, even if streaming becomes the only delivery platform, which, if we're honest, that's where we're headed. So, free Scott. Yeah, I wish Scott was on here. But I'm looking forward to seeing Scott come back. DM Colorist from Davenport, Florida. Good to see you, dude. Sony was the real first digital cinema. I remember the F900 and the F23. Would it kind of be cool to have them take ARRI over? I think the politics is what gets in the way of Japanese companies even considering acquiring Western world companies. And in their case, a German company. I think that that's real. So Scotty, I don't know any better or different, but I'm going to say that I don't believe that is the case. Um, whatever it is that ARRI does engineering wise with their sensor and the way that they read the light that the sensor is able to pick up and the way that they stitch multiple sensors to get the Alexa 65, up and running, I think that that is all proprietary. And I think that is one of the reasons why they've been able to essentially own that part of the market share and then have the types of relationships that they have with Panavision. I feel like if somehow they were borrowing technology from somebody else, someone else would have had a crack in that door to allow them to compete with them. And at this point, at least from what I've seen and who I know and what I've known, um, ARRI doesn't have any competition in their space for what they offer and what they do. And very seldom is there I'm going to put an ARRI up against this other camera and then we're going to decide. Like, that doesn't happen in studio work and it doesn't happen in broadcast work. It just doesn't happen. So it happens on independent work because of us and those of us who, dip our toe in a lot of different systems. But I just don't, well, again, from what I've seen and know, that doesn't happen there. I like German engineering. I drive a German car, have for the better part of 20 years. Um, every time I get a new one, it's a German car. I am going to buy an American car because I feel like it's the right thing for me to do. Um, but I don't know that I'm going to ever get rid of my German cars. I don't know. I don't know what that answer is, DM. It could be, and I don't have that information. But it would be interesting if they would share that. If I was Black Magic, I would run to buy it. They really need tech like this. So I don't disagree. Um, I think that let's just be completely unmuted here, which unmuted will be the name of my podcast, just so you all know. So if I take all the filters off. I think it's very easy to say that while Blackmagic has given us a lot, a ton, has made it incredibly accessible, makes the best cameras to learn cinematography with, and so on. Makes it easy to bridge the gap from narrative to corporate work to independent filmmaking to live broadcast with the way that they organize their packages and their hardware and so on. The biggest challenge for me with Blackmagic, who happens to own the absolute best color workflow, period, on the planet. Okay? So for the last 17, 18 years, my color pipeline goes through Resolve. So there's no question there. My biggest problem with Blackmagic has always been a quality control problem. In the beginning, with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras, it's this idea that, oh, we got this, and check out the images that are coming out of it. But by the way, we're on back order for 2+ years. That kicked my ass. And it doesn't mean I gave up on them, because I kept buying their stuff. And then they came out with the Studio 4K something or other. Awesome camera with less than 20 minutes worth of battery life. So they showed us what was possible in a package that was not easy to work with. And of course, as usual, they evolve. The football cameras, the pocket cinema cameras now, they're a little too plasticky for me. In the first try for them, I feel like the lack of consistency in colors in terms of what white balance means, which I wish my eyes could unsee things, but because of the way that I'm now and have been both trained and have worked in this space for a bit of time, if 5600 looks different on two identical copies of your same camera in the exact same scenario with the exact same matched lenses, I'm going to have a problem with it. Which, of course, I did. It sounds like they've fixed a lot of these things, but the plasticiness of their cameras seems to be persistent. Now, these are the pocket cameras. They also have the Ursa Minis, and those seem to be built better. And then they have the, what is it, the Ursa 17K? And the images that I've seen out of that camera, and I realized the price point of that camera, if I told you I wasn't tempted, I am tempted. Because of the images that I have seen coming out of that camera from multiple people. What holds Blackmagic back is their relentless want to be someone or be something to everyone. They want everyone to use them across all of their workflows. They are worried about the person who might only want to spend $2,000. And I think they could become an even better company if they said, we cannot compete in this $2,000 space, but we're going to give you the absolute best thing ever in the 3, 4, 5,000. That would make them, in my opinion, ready to look at acquiring a company like ARRI, where ARRI's taken the complete opposite approach. They don't care about you and I. If we're honest, they don't. They want us all to know and understand their workflows, their system, their color science, their benefits, and so on, but only if we step into the space that they service. The studios, the live broadcast situations, and so on, that they are already in, they want us to understand their tools. But they don't give a shit whether we ever are owner operators that are running on their tool set, because they cater to the person who is buying 20, 30, or 50 of them, their cameras and their lighting packages, and renting their lens sets for their projects, or choosing to spend a couple $100,000 on a lens set that ARRI produces. So we are not that market, which is the reason why I'm saying Blackmagic needs to sort of draw some lines and say, this is who we are. Yes, we're going to give you everything in the kitchen sink and make sure that your workflow is awesome, but you might not like our price point, and they haven't done that yet, which really means they are a long ways away, as in apart from ARRI. But if they did, that actually would be kind of cool. Yeah, Zcam, it'll never happen. Well, King, you know I'm not going to say no to that because, yeah. I mean, let's be honest. We all bleed red. If I was Nikon, I would buy it and dominate it. I think Nikon acquiring red, this is going to be this is going to be my hot take. I think I think Nikon buying red has really shown Nikon how much they did not understand about this industry. And I think the reason why we haven't seen more from Nikon, is because they are trying to wrap their head around what does it mean to service an owner-operator or a video production studio that is independent, and how do they do it in a way that is better than what Red was able to already do. You see, I don't think it has anything to do with merging technologies and figuring out sourcing or procurement of parts and so on. I think it has to do with identity. And I think that the Red identity, which still lives in many of us who bought into Red many years ago, is something that Nikon doesn't understand. And they understand consumers, but they don't understand those of us who need the tools to make a living. I'm going to make another live, maybe diving deeper into that topic because I'm opinionated. I'm just going to tell you. It's, yeah, it goes deeper than that for me. I think that ARRI has already, how do I say this? I have no knowledge of any specifics, but understand that the movie that will be released here in the very, very near future, Tron, was shot on an ARRI camera that was purpose built for ARRI by Red before they became Nikon. So, would that have anything to do with why ARRI came out with a new codec that is not RAW? I don't know, but I'm going to guess they learned something, right? Commissioning Red to build the camera for them so they could shoot a movie specific to their deliverable. OG Komodo still has a beautiful image. I'm never going to say it doesn't. You just need to learn how to work with it. Alexa LF or Extreme 35. I'm going to tell you that the Alexa LF for me is a hard pass. Alexa 65, beautiful. Alexa 35, beautiful. Alexa LF, hard pass. Alexa Mini, hard pass. So, yeah, not everything is built equal, I guess. That's the plan, King. And if you want to be in it, just shoot me a DM and yeah, let's do it. That is the plan, to have other people on the podcast. 70K is phenomenally beautiful. Yeah, no doubt. Um, I don't think there has been a camera that has tempted me more than that 17K. And my biggest reservation is a clear understanding of lens options. Because I can always work around a camera's limitations, but if I don't have the right lens that can cover or give me the coverage I need for the sensor, then it's kind of like having the Canon C70 and all of my RF lenses that are full frame. It's wasting money. So that's really what's kind of kicking my ass at this point. Yeah, I don't think Sony's going to do it, Gilbert. I think Sony is a Japanese company, and I think um, the values are different. And at least from when I've been in Japan, boots on the ground working in Japan, they're not over history. So I just don't think that could happen. And that would be the same for Bohr. Yeah, I don't see it. And it's for that reason. Well, thank you there, King. The 17K is at the top of my list. Having the 12K and 17K in my back pocket would cover all Super 35, 9K full frame. I mean, I'm I'm old enough at this point to really only care about the full life cycle of my workflow. And Black Magic keeps making it easier to choose their workflow. The only company that can compete with them is today Red, because the R3D workflow works across whatever you choose to use. Premiere Pro, Final Cut, Resolve. It's it's a cakewalk. But every other company, no one makes it easier than Blackmagic on Resolve. That's just a given. And also, one of the reasons why my Lumix S1 Mark II, shooting in Blackmagic RAW, it's kind of a no-brainer. If I'm willing on having an external monitor. It makes it super, super easy. I have not seen that DM Colorist. I will have to check that out. Thank you for sharing that. So, guys, we've been at this for 54 minutes. I appreciate you all. It is Friday. I am filling in for Scott's timeline of 4 p.m. Fridays, Central Standard. Hopefully he comes back soon, and then maybe I could find my own timeline of when I have a show. But I appreciate you all. Thank you for keeping this conversation going. You guys are awesome, and I hope you guys have a terrific weekend. And until next time, take care.
Super jam, rock, super jam, rock, super jam.